A day without laughter is a day wasted. This quote is rightly said by Charlie Chaplin. Yes. And let me tell you, laughter is truly our soul's best medicine, isn't it? So we're all always looking for a good laugh, maybe after a stressful day at work, or maybe after our exams are over. Yes. So what you can be doing as a favor for your near and dear ones is that learn the art of making people laugh through stand up comedy performances. And yes, learn this journey with us. Learn this art with us. Come into this journey and understand all the tips, all the different tricks that you can apply, how you can be learning to perform in front of a live audience, what are the different talents that you need. Apart from being funny or having the funny bone, you definitely need to have a lot of public speaking skills, people skills, and also let me tell you, you need to know how you should be handling the jokes well while you are performing them. Yes. So all this and more will be covered in our episodes. I come live every day at 6 p.m. India time, Monday through Saturday. And the vertical that we are dealing with right now, or the vertical that we are exploring now, is stand out at stand up comedy. Yes, I am Sapna Mahadevan, your host for this wonderful evening out here. And let us explore ourselves at a comic level, right? So let me take you through the coming up segment. I'm going to give you an idea of all the segments that have been planned for today's episode. Here it is. So we talk about what is stand-up comedy, what are the different elements. Those are prerequisites in writing your very own comedy routine or a comedy set. And let me tell you, today's segment here is going to cherry pick one particular type of stand up comedy performance, and it is surreal comedy. And we are going to understand how we can be writing surreal humor all by ourselves. Yes. So, a lot of things to learn in today's episode. And of course, there's going to be fun all along the way. We have some fun segments here planned for our dear viewers. As you can see on the screen right now, we have Decipher the EDM. There are icebreaker questions which you need to answer quite creatively. And then there is identify the comedian. There is a quiz time. We'll also be letting you in on how you can be framing the fun part by use of characters and situations and the settings. Yes. So let's move ahead into the episode of today without wasting much time. And the first segment that I bring to all of my viewers here is guess the character, right? So, yes, I'm going to show you some famous movie or cartoon characters picture right here on the screen. And these are really famous characters. I'm sure that I'm going to get correct names in the chat box there. So go ahead and type in your answers in the chat box. And yes, hello there, Pranali, Creative Corner. Hi, Joseph. Yes, so thanks a lot for joining the live, and a very good evening to each one of you. And yes, with that, let's move ahead to the first picture that I have for the day. Here it is. Okay. A popular cartoon character we all love watching. Yes. Um, that is correct. It is the duck, but what's the name of that duck? Um, Waiting for some answers to come up here. R says it is the duck that we all know from that picture there, isn't it? But what is the name of that character? That is correct. It is Daffy the duck. Yes. So thanks again for that quick response. And let's move ahead to the next picture here. Another beloved character from our famous Mowgli movie. Yes. So the name of this particular character in the chat box quickly. Jungle Book. popularized by the TV series as well, and the movie, a kid's true favorite. And yes, I get the correct answer in the chat box. That's correct again. Baloo the bear. Right. So, yes, let's move ahead to the last one for the day. And this is one character which really is so cute, isn't it? Let me tell you, it was also called, um, popularly, it was also known as the Little Chef. But what is the correct name of that character? And maybe you can also give me the name of the movie. Okay, I'm waiting for some answers here. There's a question mark coming up, a think emoji, and I think I should be giving that out to you. Yes, the little chef is Remy from Ratatouille, right? And that's so cute, isn't it? Adorable little chef, right? That is correct. Bhavna Singh giving me the name of the movie, although that spelling is not quite right. Um, that can be excused though. Bhavna, thanks a lot for the answer. And let me tell you, this character was called Remy. Yes, and let's move ahead to the next segment here. Yes, that's a French name. So most usually R is not pronounced and it sounds something like Hemi, but yes, I give that to you. Great. So let's move ahead and look at what is the next segment that we have here. So yes, we are going to talk about what is stand-up comedy. And by now, today is the 10th episode. We already have seen a lot, actually heard a lot about stand-up comedy in all of these 9 episodes that went by, right? So even then, let me again give you an idea of what stand up comedy is all about for all of my new viewers for today. So, stand up comedy, as the name suggests, is when a performer performs in front of a live audience, and what they are trying to do there is wanting to make people laugh, right? And let me tell you, it really takes a lot of talent, a lot of skill to be doing that. And the jokes most usually are scripted beforehand, and they say the jokes like a comedy routine or a comedy set. There are one liners and punch lines that they have included in the comedy set. But let me tell you, even though those jokes are scripted beforehand, it really depends on the skills that the stand up comedian has, because coming to the stage in front of a lot of people and then saying all of that jokes, that too in a way in which it sounds funny, is really a tough nut to crack. Yes. So the average stand up comedy show, let me tell you, it gets 4 to 6 laughs a minute from the audience, right? And that is something that we know about stand up comedy. And now let's understand what is the subtopic of the day, right? So today's topic is surreal comedy. The past 2 episodes, we saw how we could be writing another comedy type, which was observational comedy, right? So observational comedy was all about mundane, everyday kind of life moments, which you observe keenly and try to bring in some kind of an humor there, right? Now, surreal comedy or surreal humor, it is when something which is really bizarre or inexplicable, that it becomes really funny for the audience. Yes. So it really takes talent, let me tell you, to make something which is surreal or absurd and incite humor into it. But almost every comedy type in history has used this form at least a few times, right? Now, it could be mixed with other comedy tropes as well. And let me also tell you that surreal humor, it comes in from absurdity. If there is a deliberate violation of causal reasoning, right, something that is not logical, right, then those events or those behaviors, they give you the surreal humor. Yes. So a portrayal of surreal humor tends to involve bizarre juxtapositions, incongruity, sometimes irrational or absurd situations as well. And also, the comic will try to bring in some nonsensical expressions to his face as well, which again incites the humor, right? So, this is the subtopic of the day, and we are going to understand different jokes by way of surreal comedy, and you are going to clearly make a demarcation between different types of comedy tropes. And also, let me tell you, throughout the episode, we will be giving you expert tips and tricks on how you can be writing this kind of a humor all by yourself. Yes, and let's now move ahead to our next segment, where we give you some examples of surreal comedy, right? So these are one of the types could be absurd jokes. And when I say this particular joke, my clever friend said that onions are the only food that can make you cry. So I threw a coconut in his face. Now that was absurd. Was an absurd joke, isn't it? So this is how you relate an absurd situation and make it funny and incite the humor, and then it gets categorized into surreal comedy, right? So this was one example of surreal comedy. It was an absurd joke. And let's move on to the second one. I get emojis there in the chat box. So yes, that's how you can deal with an everyday situation, but mix in some absurdity, some illogical reasoning, incongruity, and that's how you create a surreal joke, right? Now, let's look at the second example here of surreal comedy: laugh out loud. Yes. So yesterday, my boss told me, don't dress for the job you have, dress for the job you want. Today, when I turned up at the office dressed like a ghostbuster, he told me I was fired. Yes. So that's how you connect the dots and make up a joke which sounds absurd and illogical, both at the same time, right? And we have also a picture there depicting this particular joke, right? And that was the second example that we had of surreal comedy. Now, let's move ahead to the third joke for the day here, which will again depict what surreal comedy is all about. Varun is laughing out loud. I'm getting all sorts of emojis here. And yes, so there are different types. So when you have these expressions where it seems as if you look absurd, or the acts that you're doing that seems to be absurd, or maybe some nonsensical expressions that you have, all of this will together be a part of surreal comedy, right? Now, let's look at the third type here, which is about nonsense logic. Yes, there you can see in the picture there, eyes staring at something. And when I read that joke out to you, you're going to understand how that logic is really screwed up. Yes, so here it is. I have just discovered I have superpowers. I can actually melt ice cubes by staring at them. It takes me quite a long time, though. Yes. So, of course, ice cubes are going to melt even though you stare at them or not. But that is some nonsense logic, isn't it? That having superpowers bit, right? So, that's how you write a surreal comedy. Putting in all the absurdity, the incongruity, illogical reasoning, nonsense logic, all of this plays at surreal comedy, right? So now that you have got an understanding of what surreal comedy is actually about, let us go further ahead into our episode and understand how we can be writing one. What are the essentials? How you can be framing that fun part, right? So I know you're all eagerly waiting to explore this particular genre here. But before we move ahead, I have another icebreaker question for you. And the question is, what is your favorite video game? Okay, so quickly in the chat box, let me know which is your favorite video game. And I'm going to wait for your answers. My favorite video game would be word games or Sudoku. Yes, that's what I love to play whenever I want to pass time somewhere. Um I can see Tripti Kiran Mungekar and Bandhu Lapde giving me a like here. Thanks a lot for those likes. And So, yes, let's move ahead. I'm waiting for some of your answers. Roblox is the one that I get here from Joseph. Thanks for that answer there, Joseph. Sri Devi says Minecraft. Okay, that's nice. Minecraft is really one clever game, isn't it? You need to do the math correctly. Okay, and what else? So I get Roblox and Minecraft here. From my days, I can remember Mario. Maybe I'm not sure whether you all still play that one. Okay, so thanks a lot for that answer there. And let's move ahead. You can keep on writing to me here in the chat box. I'll definitely read all of your answers. And here we come to the next segment, which is establishing the essentials. So, for you to write a comedy set, which is all about surreal humor, how you can be doing that is there are three definite elements in every stand up comedy. And the element that we have in consideration for today is you have to begin with a relatable scenario, right? And the second definite element is build a bridge, and finally get into the depths of absurdity, since it is surreal humor that we are talking about, right? So in all of these essentials, I'm going to delve deeper and give you more understanding of how you can be doing this. So the first element that we have here is begin with a relatable scenario, right? So first and foremost, you need to choose a context that most people listening to you can relate to easily, and this is a no brainer, isn't it? Only if you recite a joke that most of the people can understand and comprehend, only then it's going to work for you, isn't it? Otherwise, a joke that only a few people can relate to will only make those few people laugh and leave the rest wondering as to what on earth you're talking about, isn't it? And we do not want that to happen while we are in front of a live audience. Yes, so always choose a topic which is relatable to the majority of the audience who are watching and hearing you, right? So that is the first and foremost step that you need to take, and always keep that in mind. So here with this, begin with a relatable scenario. How you can do that is if you're cracking a ridiculous comment in an unexpected situation, then you can look for perfect timing. And let me tell you, timing is all that matters while we are saying a joke. Yes. So try to find a moment where everyone will expect it the least. And when you take them by surprise, the relatable scenario is the mundane situation that all of us are experiencing, right? And that off guard moment is again going to work in your favor. Yes. So now, if you're telling a longer surreal joke through a story or a telltale kind of a format, then put it in a relatable setting that most of your listeners are familiar with. And the more common and pattern like the situation is, the higher the chances that nobody will see your joke coming, right? So form a pattern through your telltale story and catch your public off guard. Bring that surprise element into your narration, and of course, see to it that whatever your joke is, it is not constrained to one set of the audience, right? All of the people there, majority at least, should be able to comprehend and relate to the topic that you have chosen, right? So that's the first element that we need to understand. And then the second bit of information that we have here is build a bridge. So what we need to do is, in the second step, is to crack a surreal joke. Find an element that helps you build a bridge between the rational world and to an irrational or an absurd one, right? So like in our examples, yes, you would have observed in our examples also, ice would definitely melt if it is kept outside in room temperature. Yes, but then building a bridge between that rational topic to an irrational one, where you saying that you have superpowers and that's why when you stare at the ice it is melting, that is the bridge that you are creating to connect the irrational and the rational, right? And that's what we need to do while we are performing surreal comedy. Take an everyday topic which is relatable, and then try including something which is absurd, which goes along with that joke, right? So building the bridge is the second element that we have here. And how you can do that again is you can choose any element from the given scenario as long as you can make it work. And it can be a word, a number, a person, an idea, anything that you can think of, anything that will help you catch people off guard and surprise them with the absurdity of what you're saying is going to be a great pick, right? So that's how you can be doing that. Pooja Singh, thanks a lot for that like. And so this was the second element that we saw. Initially, we saw the first and the foremost step, which is your topic should be easily comprehensible, easily understandable, something that all your audience members can relate with. Second essential, build a bridge between the rational subject and the absurd or the irrational one. And now the third element that we have here, the third definite element that you do not want to miss, is get into the depths of absurdity, right? So this is going to be the third and the final step. Take the plunge. Whatever was the element that you selected in step 2, exaggerate it as much as you can. And let me tell you, while you are performing in front of an audience, exaggeration is one of the important techniques in all the humor types, and surreal comedy, of course, is no exception, right? So whatever the topic that you have picked out in the second step, you need to exaggerate that particular topic, and to make it feel seemingly absurd, right? Now, how you can do that again is one particular great circumstance is always going to be there in your element, and there are no limits when it comes to absurd humor, right? So you can let your imagination go wild in any direction. The less sense it has, the better. And as you start getting more experienced, all of these steps will come more and more naturally to you, and you do not have to think about, you know, what was step 1 and how do I link it with step 2, and now finally what do I have to say, right? Experience is what counts. And when you have the experience with a lot of performances, not necessarily in front of a large audience, but maybe in even performing in front of your near and dear ones, that also is an experience that counts. And then it's going to come more naturally to you, right? So the third step and the final crucial step here is the less sense and the more absurd your joke sounds, the better, right? So these were the three essentials that we had in today's surreal humor category. And now let's move ahead to the next segment, which is a synonymous word. You can also let me know in the chat box if you have had an understanding of what surreal humor is all about. Any questions that you have, please post them in the chat box. I'll try answering them to the best of my capacity. And here we have another synonymous word, which is absurd, right? So absurd would mean something that is ridiculous, or something that cannot be made sense of. Yes, so these are synonymous words for absurd. Synonymous would mean similar word meanings, right? Now let's move ahead. Pooja Singh, Tripti, Kiran, Bandhu, Labde, thanks a lot for all your likes. And we move ahead to the next segment, which is quiz time, right? So here is the first question. Are you all prepared for the quiz time? There are two questions that I have for the quiz time of today. And the first one is, which is the hottest continent on Earth? Right? So quickly in the chat box, let me know the hottest continent on Earth. Who is going to give me the first answer there? Okay, I see emojis coming up here. Africa is the correct answer. Thanks a lot for that. Pranj gives me the correct answer there. Africa it is. And let's move ahead to the next one, which is the smallest continent in the world. Any answers coming up for this one? The time is ticking and you need to be really quick. Let me give that to you. Smallest continent in the world, Australia, right? Those were the two quiz time questions that we had today about geography. And let's move ahead to our next segment, expert tips on establishing the essentials. That is, expert tips on how you can be writing surreal comedy, right? So here is the first expert tip to kickstart your joke, or the writing process. You can come up with a topic and write down as many jokes as you can. It can be jokes or funny lines or maybe one liners, whatever you can think of. And you will likely use only one or two of them, but you need to write a lot in order to find the true comedic gold, right? So don't be scared if your first draft doesn't want to make you laugh, or even if you feel that your writing is not funny. Learn to be patient with yourself and keep going at it, right? That is what is the first expert tip here. So definitely it takes a lot of talent and a lot of skill to write jokes which sound funny, yes. So you might want to give yourself a lot of time and patience, and do not give up. Attitude is the thing that you want to have, right? So that's the first expert tip. And now the second expert tip is that you can always visit some improv shows or comedy club shows, maybe, or even these days it's really popular. You can also watch comedy shows and performances online, right? So there are plenty of comedy sets available online as well. You can watch Judge stand-up comedy special, right? And this comedy special is called by Judd Apatow. That's a Netflix special, and you can watch that as well to understand how he transitions from joke to joke, how he closes his Netflix special, and more importantly, how he what sort of performance it is. How does he deliver the jokes? What's the timing? How are the punchlines being performed, right? All of these are some observations that you can be doing by watching this show, The Return, on Netflix. Yes. So pay attention to all of the minute details of the show, and that's how also you can be learning the craft, right? So this is another expert tip for all of my budding stand up comedians. And now let's move ahead to the next segment that we have for today, which is Decipher the Idiom, right? Now, the idiom for today is the last laugh. And let me again tell you, idioms are phrases which have hidden meaning. That means that, you cannot take that phrase literally. It has some sort of an hidden meaning, right? Now, the last laugh is an idiom which means when someone feels that you're not going to succeed, uh, and you actually are victorious, right? So then you can use this idiom, the last laugh, right? To succeed when people thought that you would not. Then is the time that you can be using this idiom. So for example, I can maybe say that she was fired from the company last year, but she had the last laugh when she was hired by their competition, right? So that could be a sentence how you can be using the last laugh. And idiom which says a goal or a victory or something that gets completed despite people mocking you or doubting your caliber or your capability, right? So that's the idiom there, the last laugh. And let me also give you an example statement here. Though the singer was made fun of in high school, her multi platinum album proved she could truly have the last laugh, right? So that's a beautiful example of how you can be using the idiom, the last laugh, right? And thanks a lot for all of those thumbs ups in the chat box here, truly making my day. And now I'm going to move ahead to our next icebreaker question. There it is, your favorite sweet dish. Okay, so people in the audience here watching me live, do let me know what is your favorite sweet dish. Do you have a sweet tooth, um, or do you like only spicy food? Share your comments with me in the chat box here. I have a list of favorite sweet dishes. I can't really name one. Okay, what are the answers that I'm going to get here? Donuts is the first one that I get there. Thanks for that, Dafia. So, yes, donuts with all the different toppings, isn't it? The pink frosting ones are my favorites. Okay, so we get donuts. There are a lot of Indian sweet dishes that I really love. Oh, what else? Okay, so cakes coming up next. Great. Chocolates, okay. Lovely. So thanks again for all of those answers. Yum, isn't it? Wow. Okay, so let's move ahead with our icebreaker question to our next important segment here. And now it is all about framing the fun part. So, how to figure out the absurdist jokes. Yes, that is the next segment here. So, let me tell you that usually you are going to try to intentionally violate common logic and get the public laugh thereby, right? So blurting out silly comments in mundane situations, saying completely unrelated thoughts in regular conversations, answering questions nonsensically, taking advantage of unlikely scenarios, all of this is going to form a part of surreal comedy, right? So this has to be done intentionally if you want to write a comedy set about which is about surreal humor. Then all of this needs to be done intentionally. You need to violate common logic to make people laugh, right? Now the second framing the fun part is that you might have always noticed that there's a pattern here. Absurd humor, it thrives in common everyday situations where nobody expects a joke, right? So the more unpredictable it is, the larger potential it has to be funny. Now you can rarely see an absurd joke coming, but we hope you can now appreciate it when it does happen, right? So it is hard to predict a joke when it is absurd, or you see a routine that the comedians have. They talk about a mundane, everyday kind of a situation where you definitely are not seeing the joke coming, but you're taken off guard and you're taken by surprise when that joke lands, right? And that is what makes you laugh out loud. So, this is something that we need to imbibe and understand if we want to write a surreal humor or a surreal comedy joke. And now, the third part here is that it is important to really note that surreal comedy is quite unique and many people don't enjoy it. Like if I talk about all the illogical and nonsensical behavior, then there are only quite a few who would be appreciating surreal comedy, right? Some of the audience members would not enjoy it even in the slightest, right? So like with anything else in life, different people have different appreciation for various types of humor. So you need to understand that, and you should never force yourself to become better at a comedy that you do not truly enjoy, right? So if this is your cup of tea, then definitely go for it. Keep exploring all the things that can make you laugh. Spend more time doing things that do the best job, right? So whatever it is, you need to be passionate about that particular comedy type. Only then you're going to enjoy the process of writing one, right? So let me tell you, surreal humor with all of the nonsense and the illogical comprehensions, it is not something which is going to be preferred by all. And in that sense, it is really a unique type of comedy. But if it is your cup of tea, then you can definitely try your hand at writing these kind of jokes. But see to it that you have patience with yourself and have the never give up attitude, right? So these were the framing the fun parts. And now let's move ahead to the next decipher, the idiom. And let me also keep checking my comment box here. Okay, so Aparna tells me that it is really interesting to know about all of these comedy types. Thanks a lot, Aparna. And you can also, try your hand at writing a comedy set by yourself, although it seems daunting at first. But let me tell you that once you are into it, you're definitely going to appreciate and understand more of that writing style. Yes. That is for one. And of course the second thing here is that people are definitely wanting to be with a company which is really funny, so you get brownie points there as well, isn't it? Right. Smileys all the way in my chat box here. Great. So let's move ahead to the next idiom that we have for the day, which is laugh one's head off, right? And this is an idiom which means to express laughing hysterically or laughing loudly for a very long time, right? That's how you say it, laugh one's head off. And now let me give you an example of how you can be writing it in a sentence. Every time I watch that movie, I laugh my head off. So, yes, that's the way that you use that idiom. And idioms, let me tell you, they are again an impressive way of putting across your thoughts to people, right? So do learn all of these fun idioms, jot them down in one place, and keep revisiting them so that you remember what it means. And otherwise, what will happen is you would become the butt of all jokes because you're saying an idiom which does not mean what you are using it for, right? So learn these idioms properly, write it down in one place, and try using them in your vocabulary because definitely these are going to form an impression, right? So this was the second idiom that we had, to laugh one's head off. And now I'm going to move ahead to the next segment. And this next segment is quiz time for you again. Name this famous stand up comedian. Okay, so we all know him, the very popular, famous stand up comedian and actor as well. What is the name of this famous actor? Quickly in the chat box. We have seen him in many popular movies as well. The Nutty Professor. That is correct. Yes, I get the correct answer. Thanks a lot for that. Um, Great. R. Branch. Thanks for this one. It is, of course, Eddie Murphy. Yes. So definitely you can watch some movies where like Shrek or maybe The Nutty Professor, other Eddie Murphy popular movies, Dr. Dolittle, yes, and understand, observe keenly all of these comedians, how do they perform, and that's another ideas. That's how you're going to get them when you observe all of these performers keenly, right? So that is the end of this particular quiz question here. And with that, let me move ahead to the next segment that we have. This is again some more expert tips and tricks for my audience here. The first expert tip that we have here is analyze one of the primary relationships in your life. It could be with a friend, maybe with your parents, with your teacher. It could be a boss employee relationship, or maybe with a sibling. Search for that humor in the basic observation and make sure your observation is not dependent on context or knowledge that the audience won't have, right? So it needs to be relatable. For example, it should not be an inside joke which only people in your line of work are going to understand, right? It needs to be something which is easily comprehensible by all or majority of the audience members, right? So that's the first expert tip here. Analyze the relationships and try to make a joke out of popular everyday life situations with this relationship as the context. And then the second expert tip that we have here is you can develop a character that you can perform on stage in your act. You can introduce this particular character or the person, give him a strong him or her a strong introduction on stage. What aspects of their personality are people going to relate to? Write down the ideas for your character. And you might also find that inhabiting a character in your stand up act doesn't work for your brand of comedy, but that's okay. Don't limit yourself in the beginning. You can, of course, explore different perspectives and see if the character fits, right? So, this is another form of comedy which really works with the audience, and you get to connect the dots again and again by referencing to that same character every time you perform on the stage, right? So these were some expert tips that you can learn from. And now I'm going to move ahead to the next segment. It is again a fun segment planned for my dear viewers here for today. And the name of the segment is Locate the Words. So if you have been listening to me intently throughout the episode, then you're definitely going to find out the hidden words in the letter maze that I'm going to show you, right? All of these words are from today's episode, and it could be written vertically, horizontally, and even diagonally, right? So have an eagle's vision. Try finding out all the words hidden in this letter maze. Yes. So let me tell you, I think there are 4 words that you can find here. Quickly in the chat box, I'm going to get an understanding if my audience was all ears or not, right? So funny is the first word that I get. That is correct. What else do we have here? Funny is right. Surreal is the next that I get here. That is correct again. Great. So I think all of you have been listening intently. Surreal and funny. Now, 2 more remaining. The clock is ticking. You need to be really quick. Um, question marks coming up there. Joke is correct. Latika giving me the correct answer. Joke or jokes, I can give both of them. Latika, Aneja, thanks a lot for that answer there. That's correct. So 3 words already given in the chat box. And let me reveal all the one that is remaining. Here we have absurd. Yes, so absurd was the word that you all missed. And the second one was surreal. We have jokes. And then, of course, funny, right? Lovely. So these were the 4 words in our Locate the Word segment for today. And good job to all of you who answered correctly. And now let's move ahead to our next segment. Before I wrap up this episode of today, I am going to give you a quick roundup of all that we learned about surreal comedy. So let me tell you, surreal comedy is a type of comedy where absurdity and incongruity, or even nonsensical logic, all of this forms a part of your comedy set. And what you need to do here is begin first and foremost with a relatable scenario so that your audience gets what you're talking about. Then of course try to build a bridge between the rational and the irrational topic. That is the rational topic and the absurd irrational joke that you're trying to build in. You have to connect both of them together, and finally get into the depths of absurdity. So more is always less here, and keep that in mind while you're writing a surreal comedy, right? So this was all that we learned in today's episode. We saw some examples of surreal comedy. If you have missed out on the episode, then you can definitely watch it once again and understand all that we have to offer about surreal comedy. So next episode, we will be coming up with surreal comedy again, but here we will be bringing a scenario to you, and we'll try to weave up a story, a telltale kind of a format where we'll give you more understanding of how you can be writing a surreal comedy set, right? So this is going to be in Monday's episode. Do stay tuned in with me at 6 p.m. India time on Monday as well. I am Sapna Mahadevan signing out for today, and I want all of you to take good care of yourselves. Have a happy time and keep laughing. Bye bye.